Well, good day and thank you for coming back to the next video. As I spoke about in my previous video concerning the sort of the introduction to the time of the end, I listed these 10 questions and I said that my thought is that these 10 questions, understanding these 10 questions, at least from my perspective, will provide a better understanding of what we're expecting to happen at the end of days. So I want to look at question 10. What does Jesus say about the second coming Elijah? What are his assignments? Now, when I bring up the second coming Elijah to people, it's sort of a strange concept. I kind of have to go back and reread these scriptures. The green text scriptures is what I call them, to emphasize this point. So, on the Mount of Transfiguration, Jesus, after that words, that's when Peter, James, and John, they'd fell asleep, and Jesus was there with Moses and Elijah, and Jesus was glorified, and then later Moses and Elijah were glorified. And so as they were coming down the mountain, the disciples said to Jesus, "And why do the scribes say that Elijah must come first?" And he answered, this is Jesus speaking, "Elijah does come, and he will, in the future, restore all things. But I tell you, Elijah has already come," past tense, "and they did not recognize him." And the disciples realized that Jesus was talking about John the Baptist. So Jesus is speaking explicitly about two types of Elijah: a future coming Elijah and a past coming Elijah. And we know who the past coming Elijah was. That's John the Baptist. So Mark 9 is the same thing. Elijah does come first to restore all things. But I tell you, Elijah has already come. Okay. And then Malachi 4 says, "Behold, I will send Elijah, the prophet, before the great and awesome day of the Lord comes." Now, I've seen a book that was published recently, and the title of that book is "The Day of the Lord Has Come." And I asked that author, I know him, I said, "Hey, what about Malachi 4? Who's Elijah, and is everything restored?" And, I didn't get an answer out of that. So I want to emphasize the importance of listening to the words of Jesus and picking apart these words and using these words to guide us in our thinking. So there is two types of Elijah: a first coming Elijah, John the Baptist, and a second coming Elijah, which we don't know who that is yet. This second coming Elijah has two tasks. He is to restore all things first, before the day of the Lord, and that he will turn the hearts of the people back to God. He has two things. Now, the first coming Elijah, did he restore anything? The answer is no. He wasn't given that task. He was told, the angel Gabriel told Zechariah, that your son John, let me go back. Luke 1. Remember the angel Gabriel. The angel Gabriel came to Zechariah, the father of John, and Gabriel said, "And he will turn many of the children of Israel to the Lord their God. And he will go before them in the spirit and the power of Elijah to turn their hearts." So he's quoting Malachi 4:5 here. Okay? But of course, Malachi 4:5 is going to have to be fulfilled twice for the second coming Elijah. And so the typology we have here is that we have a person that John the Baptist came in the spirit and the power of Elijah to turn the hearts of the people, just like he did. We know that. But Jesus makes a reference to another Elijah coming. And if we follow the same pattern, we'll say that it's not literally Elijah coming, that it's a person who's coming in the power and the spirit of Elijah, just like John the Baptist. That's what we have for an archetype. Now, someone might say, "Well, Elijah, that's simple. He's coming. He's one of the two witnesses." Well, did Jesus reference two witnesses? Did he say Elijah and his sidekick, the other guy? No, he just talks about one guy that's going to come turn the hearts of the people. Okay? Well, what do the two witnesses do? Well, let's look at the two witnesses. I say that they're not. This is where we get confused, I believe. They're not. Elijah is not. Well, let's see what Scripture says are one of the two witnesses. So if we go to the book of Daniel, time of the end of days, we all know this. The ark, the abomination that's going to take away the burnt offering, all that stuff. And look at the last verse of Daniel 12. But you, Daniel, go your way to the end, and you shall rest, and you shall stand in your allotted place at the end of days. Well, the end of days certainly were not 2,500 years ago when Daniel was here. And did he stand in his allotted place? Okay, well, let's look at this a second. Look at this meme I have here. Daniel 12:13. You shall stand in your allotted place. What does it say in Revelation 11 about the two witnesses? These are the two olive trees and two lampstands that will stand before the Lord of the earth. And they're going to shut up the sky, and they're going to be prophesying. Now, if you read Revelation 11, the two witnesses, they're not turning the hearts of anybody. They're actually killing people who come against them. Now, the other witness, I believe, the scripture points to is John the Revelator. John the Revelator in Revelation 10:11, the last verse of chapter 10, John was told that he must again prophesy about many peoples, nations, and languages and kings. So he's told that he's going to prophesy again. Literally. Not just because he wrote the book of Revelation. That's not his prophesying again. Well, that would mean that John still has to be alive. That would mean that John would have to be alive at the second coming of Jesus somehow, because he does come in Revelation 10. Jesus comes and steps his foot on the earth and the sea. That's what happens in Revelation 10, and gives John that this Revelation 10 here. Jesus is standing 1 foot in the ocean, 1 foot in the land, and he tells John, "You're going to prophesy again." And then in the very next verse, we call it chapter 11, John is given a measuring rod like a staff, and he was told to rise and measure the temple of God and the altar and those who worship there. Well, there was no temple of God in 95. This is a vision John is having. It's a vision of the future. John is having a vision of his future self measuring the third temple. There was no temple in 95 AD, and there's no temple now. And Revelation hasn't been fulfilled, which most people already agree with. So John's going to rise up and measure the third temple. That would mean John would still have to be alive. Do we know anything about John being alive? Remember what it says in John, the book of John, the gospel in John 21? What is the rumor? Remember Peter was asking about the beloved disciple, the apostle? Peter was asking about him. And Peter says, "Lord, what about this man?" That would be John the Revelator. Jesus said to him, "If it be my will that he remain alive for 2,000 years until I come, what is that to you? You follow me, Peter." So the saying spread abroad among the brothers that the disciple was not going to die. Well, hell's bells. Maybe that's the truth. Sorry, couldn't help myself. And yet Jesus did not say he was not going to die. It is that he would remain until I come. So I don't know how this works. Such is the way of the Lord. My personal belief is that John the Revelator is going to be here as one of the two witnesses, and then he will die after the beast that rises up from from the pit of hell, kills him. And the same goes with Daniel. Daniel is going to stand in his allotted place at the end of days. Just like it says here. John would prophesy again. These guys are going to prophesy for 1,260 days. Now this goes against the common belief that it's Moses and Elijah. Well, Moses already died once. We know that he died. It says that in the text. But just because Moses and Elijah are glorified on the Mount of Transfiguration, that doesn't mean that they're the two witnesses. We have scripture that points to it. So it's my belief, I'm going to go with the scripture, the straightforward interpretation of what we see here, and it's and it's Daniel and John, in my opinion. So what about this second coming Elijah? Who is this second coming Elijah that's going to come and restore all things in the future? Well, I want to offer this up. It's probably somebody alive today. What's he going to restore? Well, if John is measuring a temple, he's probably going to be the force behind getting the third temple restored. Okay. So, bottom line is, we're going to have a period of restoration where there is going to be a John the Baptist type figure who's going to turn the hearts of the people. Let me get back to mine. There's going to be a second coming John the Baptist figure who's going to be in charge of restoring all things first. And he's going to have two tasks, like I said, to restore. I would imagine the force behind getting the third temple. That doesn't mean he's the Antichrist. Okay? And then he's going to be turning the hearts of the people back to God before the great and awesome day of the Lord comes. Now, I'm not going to do this here, but I thoroughly believe, based upon my timeline that I've shared before, this is a timeline I have right here, I believe that the end of the 2,000 years and the end of the 80 years from Psalm 90 is May 30th of 2028. And I believe that the temple will be built by this time. And that's another video. So with that, guys, I'll let you go. I just wanted to share the concept of this second coming Elijah that's going to be responsible for restoring all things, turning the hearts of the people back to God. With that, I'll let you go. Have a great day, and God bless you.